What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, back with another Reaper format video, and this will be my last Reaper format video for the near future. I'll still be having a Reaper format tier list once the Reaper tournament that we're holding on the YGO from Zero Discord server, link in the description down below if you want to join in on future tournaments or play any of the formats that I featured on the channel. But once that tournament wraps up, I'll be doing a tier list for the format, but this will be my last of these sort of regular deck coverage videos that I do for it. So this will be a pretty interesting video, a bit different from what I normally do because I'm going to be focusing on an FTK deck. I generally save these for the end of my coverage of a format because one, they aren't really meta relevant in most formats. So, I can feel fine just putting it to the end. And two, I'm not going to be playing this against other people. I don't want to subject them to the FTK because I feel like that's a bit boring for them. And it's pretty clear how decks like this are pretty bad going into another deck, like going second or once they've got any form of interaction. So I don't really feel like it's necessary to show off the gameplay here. Although I have seen some comments in the past saying, that I should potentially put actual gameplay in these videos here for the FTK deck. So let me know what you think of that down in the comments below, and then maybe I'll change up my next one depending on what people prefer. But either way, this is going to be an FTK video, and I'm just going to focus on one FTK for this format. The previous FTKs that you've seen in things like GOAT format, Cyber format, etc., those are still around as well. Of course, losing Graceful Charity and things like that definitely makes them a bit worse, but you can still play them if you want. You just have to adjust the list a little bit. But the new FTK card introduced into Reaper format is Exchange of the Spirit. Now, this trap worked a bit differently back in the day than it does now. Back in the day, you didn't have to have both players having 15 or more cards in their graveyard. Just you had to have 15 or more cards in your graveyard. And then you could use this effect by paying 1,000. And then each player swaps the cards in their graveyard with the card in their deck, then shuffles the deck. So realistically, if you can pull this off on turn basically 2, because you have to set it on your turn, but then you can activate it in your opponent's draw phase on their turn, then you basically win the game on the following turn because your opponent won't have any way to draw deeper into their deck unless they've got some way to put cards from their graveyard back into the deck, but most of those don't really exist or aren't commonly played in most of the decks in the format. So realistically, this is like a pseudo FTK. Your opponent doesn't have a turn to still try and win afterwards. But, if they can't do that, then you win the game. So this sort of deck can be very powerful. It actually manages to get its win condition off, although it does have some difficulties that other FTK decks don't necessarily do. For instance, over the course of your combo, you could be activating things like card destruction or just other ways to get deeper into your thing that actually do put your opponent's cards in the graveyard. And if your opponent has cards in the graveyard, then Exchange of the Spirit isn't really a pseudo FTK because then they'll have some cards in their deck to sort of recover from that. Which is why we're playing double Soul Release, because occasionally if you are playing things like card destruction and you have to send cards from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, we need a way to remove them. This is also good if you do find yourself going second and your opponent does set up some cards in the graveyard that way. You can potentially use this going second as well to recover from that. But, most of the time, we're not going to be paying attention to the consideration of going second or not. But this is good to have in the deck for if that does come up. But for the card by card for the deck, the main engine that we're using is the library engine. So we're using these Royal Magical Libraries to get it out on field, play a bunch of spells, put counters on this thing, and draw deeper into our deck. We're also playing Triple Last Will to both tutor into Royal Magical Libraries off something like Toon Cannon Soldier and activate more spells for the Royal Magical Libraries. We're also playing these Monster Gates here, which can also trigger Last Will and also bring out a Dark Condition of Chaos here to get back any spells that we might have missed. Monster Gate is also very important for this deck because it does get 15 or more cards in grave a lot more easily than other methods. Of course, over the course of a library FTK combo, you potentially get 15 cards in your graveyard naturally, but Monster Gate just helps us turbo into that a bit more quickly. Now, of course, if you're playing Monster Gate, you do have the risk of milling the Exchange of Spirit, but that's why we're playing the Feather of the Phoenix to get that back, put it on top of the deck, potentially draw it off something like Archfiend's Oath, for instance. But either way, that's the main engine that we're using. We're using these Royal Magical Libraries. We're using the Toon Cannon Soldier with triple Toon Table of Contents, but we've also got a Toon World here as a target for that in case we've gone through our Cannon Soldier already. This is just a card that's good to pair with Trunade and things like that. We've got the Oaths and the Convulsions, pretty standard for library FTK strategies. Card destruction to dig deeper in our deck. Triple Last Will, as I mentioned, to get out the libraries. Double Level Area B. This is both a continuous spell for the Trunades as well as a way to lock down the game a bit if you do find yourself, you know, going second, or you don't quite have the combo turn 1. This can be good to activate, prevent your opponent from actually getting in and killing you. You've also got triple Magical Mallet to reset parts of your hand. We've got triple Monster Gate here, again, to dig deeper into the deck. Pre-mat to bring back our stuff. Reload in case, you know, we don't draw a mallet and we do need to refresh our hand. Reload is a good 4th option. Got these soul releases that I mentioned. The Toon Table Contents, the Toon World, Devil Upstart Goblin, because we don't really care about our opponent's life point. And lastly, the winner of the deck, the Exchange of the Spirit. Now, for the side deck, we've got a full-on conversion side into Reasoning Gate. Reasoning Gate isn't really the best deck in Reaper format, but if your opponent's siding out things to protect against aggression, it can be pretty decent. So that's why we've got this sort of Reasoning Gate side deck. We've got a Cyberstein, double Fusilier. We've got an Injection Fairy Lily, a Jinzo, double Sacred Crane, a Reaper, Dark Hole, enemy controller, no men of crossout, triple Reasoning, and a Snap Steal. And for our fusion deck, it's the typical sort of Stein fusion toolbox deck that you'll have, and it can come up if you're playing Stein in the side deck like this for the conversion side. I do think the conversion side is good, because realistically, you're not going to be able to win 2 games with just the Exchange of Spirit stuff unless you win game 1 and then game 3. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Now, instead of diving into some games, we're going to dive into some test hands to see, like, out of 10 games, how many games we actually win on the first turn. Okay, we've got our solo mode loaded up here, and this is a really good starting hand. Any hand where you open library is really, really good. So we're going to activate, or bring out that library, not activate it. Do I want to activate Last Will here? I don't, it could be good. I could also just magical mallet back things. But I think I'm going to go and activate the Last Will, put a counter on library. Then I'll mallet back the remaining cards in hand. 1, 2, 3. This could backfire on us because I'm really hoping that we draw at least 1 spell here. And we could potentially draw all non-spells. But we draw Toon Table Contents, so that's very, very good. We also draw another Last Will, but we want to go for the Toon Table. Put a counter on this. Search our deck for another Toon Table of Contents here. Whoop, just like that. We draw a card off of our library like that. Oath is really good too. We've got more Toon Table Contents, so let's go for that. So let's grab back, or not grab back, but grab a Toon Table Contents to hand. That puts 1 counter on library there. Let's go for another counter on library. And this is the last of the Toon Table Contents in our deck. So we do have a choice here. We can go for Cannon Soldier or we can go for World. I think of these, I'd rather get the World to hand, because this is another spell for library. Also, you know, if we do our Last Will play, we can go into the Toon Cannon Soldier in worst case scenario. Or if we Monster Gate, you know, and hit Cannon Soldier, it's kind of bad, but we get out a library off the Last Will. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Anyways, we're going to activate an Oath, put a 3rd counter on library, draw a card from that. We draw Soul Release, which is not really the best in this scenario. Because, you know, we have to banish cards in our graveyard if we want to do it, and that gets us away from the Exchange of Spirit win con there. So that's a bit unfortunate, but we do have 3 spells in hand that we can activate, so let's just activate another Will. This should put that at 1. Toon World, pay 1,000. Put this at 2. And then Soul Release, I mean, we have to banish one of these, so let's just banish this. But we don't want to banish all 5 because, you know, we want our graveyard set up for the exchange stuff. So we're going to draw off the library there. We draw into, oh, well, that's unfortunate. Let's go for the Oath here. Pay 5. The thing that wins us the game, or not wins us the game necessarily, but, you know, gets us in good position, is either Monster Gate or Trinade. I am going to call Monster Gate. Ah, it was Demock. Okay, so that doesn't do anything here, and we really just lose the game at this point, I think. I could have potentially kept the card destruction in hand, you know, off the mallet. That was potentially a skill issue on my part. Maybe I should have kept that just for extension in case I needed it. But, you know, I didn't do that, and so unfortunately we are going to be losing that first one there. But hopefully, you know, with some of the later test hands, we'll be able to get back into it. And this is, I mean, not the best thing in the world. I'm going to go for Upstart just to deck thin here a bit. Oh, okay. So we got Convulsion plus Oath. We get a mallet on top. Do I want to spend for that mallet? Not really. I'm going to mallet here. I'm going to put back everything. Maybe not everything. Yeah, I'll put back everything. 1, 2, 3. Shuffle. I always shuffle twice, so, you know, this isn't sort of just sort of bias on my part. We haven't used the Oath yet, so let's pay 5. and draw into this will here. Oh, another Oath on top. You love to see it. We are going to True Nade this. So two hand. But don't worry, we're going to then immediately play the Convulsion, pay the Oath, pay 5, get this Oath to hand, and there's Royal Magical Library. That's really good for us. We can go Oath there, pay another 5 for the Royal Magical Library here, draw this. And I think what we want to do for this ordering is just summon out Royal Magical Library, go for Gate right away, and then we can activate the double last will afterward. This is in case we hit a library off of our Royal Magical Library, or off the Monster Gate, that is. So, yeah, I'm just going to go for that, go for the Gate. Hopefully we hit Demock. Otherwise, we're in a bit of a tough spot because we don't have enough draws to actually get back into this one. But we hit a library indeed, so that's exactly what we wanted there. We go for library there, and then we get out 2 more libraries. Or actually, that's not exactly what we wanted because we actually lose the game from this position. We do still have a library here and a Cannon Soldier off of these double last wills that we'll be activating. But that only puts 2 counters on the 1 library that we've got, so unfortunately that will be the end of the game. So that'll be another loss for us. Sad stuff. Sad stuff indeed. As we're going to reset everything, try and go again. I could have potentially played the Mallet again a bit differently. This is sort of like something that you gotta get used to with the deck. I think with this hand here, it's a bit tough. I think we want the and we want the True Nade, but I'm okay shuffling everything else back with the reload. So 1, 2, 3, 4, shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not ideal. I think what I want to do here is mallet back the Phoenix and the Cannon Soldier. We can go into Cannon Soldier later off this tune table of contents here. So 1, 2. Exchange is not, well, okay. No, it doesn't do it because we could go Tune table of contents, thin out our deck, get Tune Cannon Soldier, go for last will to bring out the library. But then we don't have enough spells to do. You know, we could set Exchange, get it back to hand with True Nade, but that doesn't do anything there, really. Just get 1 counter on the library, which won't quite do it. So that's going to be another loss. Unfortunate stuff here. I mean, there's nothing we can do here. We have no way to get deeper into our deck, so that's going to be another L. And you're starting to see some of the flaws with this sort of deck. Yeah, I mean, it's fun if you can pull it off. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it off once at least, but I mean, again, this is the same sort of scenario. No way to get deeper into our deck, so that is another L. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's just 4 L's so far. So we still got a little bit more time, and with this hand, I think we should be able to get stuff working. So there is a debate here. Do you go for Tune Cannon Soldier first for the last will play, bring out a Royal Magical Library from deck and do things with that? Or do you go for library instead? I think we do want to go for library instead. Because, I mean, otherwise library is kind of dead in hand. Tune Cannon Soldier is also dead in hand, but it's a bit less dead than library. And last will plus gate is online too, so I feel like this is fine just going library, convulsion. Let's flip the deck. Oh, that is perfect. Oh my goodness. I mean, this one we're winning. Or if we don't win this one, then we're in a weird spot. So that's going to be 2 on library. I'm going to activate the will now because we want to get that into play at some point. So we have 1 will activation to keep in mind. We draw off the library, and now we've got this oath. So that's another counter on library. Pay 500 to draw into the soul release. Pay another 500 to draw into the tune table of contents. We're feeling very good about this. We're going to activate 1 tune table of contents to grab another tune table of contents to hand. And this does matter, us actually adding these to hand, because as time goes on, you know, that will shuffle up the deck, potentially get us a draw that we want, and then we can activate something else instead to pull off the library draw there. But it doesn't look like there's anything else that we want there. Also, I should be at 7,000 life points, not 4,000. That can potentially come up as time goes on. But I don't think we need that mallet, so we can just go for a tune table of contents here, putting the 3rd counter on library, adding another tune table of contents stand. So that'll go to hand there, and it's just another mallet on top. Okay, that's perfect. The worst case scenario would be if we drew a Toon World, or that was on top of the deck. That'd make things a little bit awkward, but as is, mallet is perfectly fine. We can actually mallet back the Cannon Soldier and do stuff with that. but I'm fine just going for True Nade. We want to save Mallet for when we have a card on top of the deck that we don't want to draw or do things with. So, I will just go for Toon Table of Contents for the Toon World. Gets us another spell counter with the True Nade. So yeah, let's just do this. We get the Toon World to hand. And now we can, okay, good to know about the Demock on bottom of the deck. We don't want to draw that anytime soon. But I don't think we will be if we activate True Nade as the last, yeah. So if we activate this Toon World, we pay 1,000. That brings up the library to 2. Then we go for the True Nade here. And this adds everything back to hand. The deck flips over. The third counter's on library. And then we should be able to draw the top of the deck now. And it won't be the Demock there. Okay. So that's a much better hand there. We're going to go for Convulsion. So this will flip the deck over, put a counter on the library. Then we're going to go for a Mallet now, I think. Yeah, let's just Mallet now. So this will put a second counter on the library. I think of these, we can send back the Toon Cancel, the Soul Release, and the Toon Mold. I think those make sense. So let's just do this. Top of deck, top of deck, top of deck. Oh, we can send back Convulsion as well. Let's do that as well. So 4, actually. Not 3. Shuffle, shuffle. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, we drew the library, but we got Feather to dump it. We've got Mallet to put it back. So that's ultimately fine, I think. Is there anything we want to get back to the top of the deck? Not really from this point. But we can do a Archfiend's Oath here. Get the third counter there. Draw a card. Soul Release we don't really want either. I'm honestly fine malleting back things here. We could also mallet back afterwards. I'll just mallet things back. So I'm going to put back 4 of everything except for Oath, honestly. So this will be 1 counter on library. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shuffle, shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we've got... Okay, Gate is actually really good here, so that's going to be... in order to do this, I think it is worth just going Gate. We do lose the counters on library, but the draw we'd be getting is the... Okay. There actually is a way around this. We can go for Feather the Phoenix, pitching Reload, grab back a card to the top of the deck, draw that card with library, and then go from there. That's a thing we can do. I don't hate that. I'm going to do that. So that's going to be a third counter on the library here. This Reload will go to Grave. And then I'll add, actually, let's add back True Nade to the top of the deck. That seems like the best option here. Putting True Nade back to the top of the deck, drawing with that True Nade there, like that. And now we can Gate. So we tribute off that Royal Magical Library. Mill this. I mean, that gets special summoned out. The last will that we activated earlier will also activate. So we can just special summon out this guy from deck. And that will indeed shuffle up our deck because we do have to, check the deck when we do that. So we shuffle up that. These guys have no counters on them, but that's perfectly fine. Exchange on top. We like that. That's going to be 1 counter on this, 1 counter on this. We haven't used these yet, so we can just use them now. So pay 500 to add the exchange to our hand. And I mean, that's pretty good too. We pay 500. Add the card Destruction to our hand. I mean, we're feeling very good about this right now. We activate this as well to put these 2 counters there. And now we can go for True Nade. Put 3 counters on each of these. Put all these back in hand. To hand. To hand. To hand. Flip over the deck. Now we can draw 2. 1, 2. I mean, this is just... I mean, this is as good as it gets, honestly. So these guys have no counters on them now. We got 11 cards in Grave. Honestly, if we just set this and then go card Destruction, I think we win. We'd want to activate Level Limit as well, just in case. But yeah, this should do it because we get 5 cards in Grave. I'm just going to do the command here. And then draw 5. Doesn't really change much. We're just resetting everything back next turn anyways. So, yep. So next turn, we pass to our opponent. We go for the Exchange of Spirit there. Reset the entire thing. So, or not reset, but get the cards in our graveyard back in the deck. Their entire deck goes... Oh, I do need to use Soul Release here. So, yeah, I use Soul Release and then I do this because I activate card Destruction. So, they've got cards in grave. So, I need to Soul Release first. Banish 5 from their graveyard. And now it's a W. Okay, so... I forgot that I needed to do that. I forgot that that's why the Soul Release is in the deck, but that's why it's here to banish their graveyard. So, yep, that is a W, first W for the deck so far. So, you know, I'm happy that we were able to actually win that one, showing that the deck can indeed actually pull off its win condition, but it is very tough to do that. So, you know, don't expect it to happen too often here. Now, I think what we want to do here, we want to go tune table contents for, oh wait, we haven't drawn yet. Okay, well, this would be, yeah, so we draw first, so that adds that to hand. But now we want to get tune canceled right away. So now we can go here. We can go tune cannon soldier, tribute for its effect, last will, bring out a Royal Magical Library in defense. So we have this immediate access to that. And now we can start getting countered on those things. So put one counter on that for the upstart, draw a card. Feather the Phoenix. Anything we want to add back here? Not particularly, in my opinion. So then we want to go Magical Mallet here, put a second one on that. I could keep Feather in hand for in case we wanted to add a last will, because that will still trigger to bring out another one of this. I'm game for that. I'm game for that. I'm game for putting the Magical Mallet back on top. So yeah, I'm gonna shuffle back these soul releases because I don't think they're that good. Shuffle, shuffle. 1, 2. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm gonna put. I can't quite. Okay, I have to do it in this way. Yeah, I activate Archfiend's Oath. Put a third counter on this. Draw. And now I draw this because I want to be using the Oath on the last will. So, yeah. So now I Feather the Phoenix. Awkward to send a True Nade. True Nade is really good. But I do think it is worth doing this. So I send the True Nade, get a counter on Library. Put the last will back on top of the deck. Pay 5 for the Oath. Draw into the will. Activate the will. Puts a second counter on that. I get to bring out a Royal Magical Library for my deck because a monster was sent from field to grave this turn, and it will still trigger from that as long as you just keep activating it. And we're going to activate this True Nade, put a third counter on this one, put a first counter on this one, add back that Oath to hand, and now we draw off this one. So we draw into, oh, that is so good. That's really good here. This is why we only went for the one can soldier off the tune table of contents instead of going for a ton of them. Because if we were able to bring out these libraries, which we knew we were able to due to last will, we can get a ton of value off this. Let's just go for that now. So that's one tune table. So it puts 2 and 1. Let's add another tune table to hand. And now this is going to be a second tune table activating. So 2 and 3. And I believe we only have the Toon World left in deck. Yeah, we only have the Toon World left in deck in terms of Toon targets. So let's add that to hand. And now we can draw off this guy here. Draw a card. Pre-mat for Toon Cancel. I mean, it's something. Gets us a spell activation, I guess. So that's something. We're going to go for an Oath here. Put 1, put 3. Take off those 3. Draw a card. Library. Not what I wanted to see. If we've got a way to pitch it, then our pre-mat becomes pretty good. But right now, we don't have that. So what I have to do is I have to do Toon World. Pay 1,000. That puts a counter on this one and a counter on this one. Now, here I could potentially go for Oath right away. But I'd rather go for the pre-mat here because it's a guaranteed spell. And I don't want to necessarily like lose out on something here. Yeah, I think pre-mat's the way to go. All this could come back to bite me depending on what the draw is. But in that case, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We bring back this Toon Cannon Soldier here. Puts a third counter on Royal Magical Library. Puts a second counter on this one. This should be at 3. And then we will draw. Level Limit is something. I don't hate Level Limit. I'm going to activate Level Limit. Switch this to defense. Put a third counter on this one. Put a first counter on this one. Draw off this guy here into an upstart. That's really good for us. We're going to go upstart here. Draw a card, put a counter on this, put a counter on this. And I mean, I'm feeling pretty good here because we got this mallet to put everything back, or not everything, but put this library back, shuffle, shuffle, and draw. And then we also get a counter on this, a counter on this. We can go for the counter on this one now. So we draw a card there. Should be at 0 counters. Convulsion is so good for us. We can activate Convulsion. We don't really have to worry about clogging up our field here because we do have this Premature Burial equipped to the Can Soldier, so we can tribute the Can Soldier. That will also deal with the premature there. We flip over the deck. This gets a counter. This also gets a counter. And I mean, that is about as good as it gets. We draw into this will, and that's perfectly fine. We're going to tribute the cancel to deal 500 to our opponent, and then we're going to activate last will there, put a counter on this one, put a counter on this one, and then we get out a Royal Magical Library from our deck. So bring that out in defense mode there. And now we know that the last card in our deck, the last monster in deck that is a DMOC. So that'll be very good for us because that should be able to just lock up the game here. We also have not used up our Oath yet. And I mean, we could, yeah, I think we use up that Oath so we get another draw with the card D. So we don't want to activate the level limit here because we do have clogged zones in that case. So I will just pay 5 and draw into this level limit here. It's a bit awkward, but there are 2 True Nades engraved, so not the most likely thing that we're able to get that back. Anyways, we're going to go a card D here. That's a third counter on this one, second counter on this one, first counter on this one. Pitch a level limit here. Draw into the Soul Release. We also get to draw into an additional card off this library. So we draw into the Feather of the Phoenix here. Now we have to use the Soul Release to do something to our opponent's graveyard because they've got 5 cards engraved from the card D. So we go for Soul Release here. That puts a counter on this one, a counter on this one, a counter on this one. We don't have to do the counters really here. Basically, every time we activate a spell, we'll be able to draw a card because of the way that these libraries work. So I'm going to draw a card off that. I'm now going to go a Feather here, pitch this one, add back a True Nade to top of deck, and that should be the end of the game because now I'm able to draw that True Nade with one of these guys here, and then I can activate the True Nade, get all these back in hand. Realistically, we're just going for our, not the True Nade, the True Nade goes to grave, but we're going for our exchange here at this point. Flip the deck, draw a card. To Monster Gate, I mean, we could just go for that now. I think I will just go for it now. Tributing whichever one does not have counters on it, I guess. So I guess at this point, we'd have to be doing stuff with counters. But realistically, we will win the game. We get back a DMOC here. DMOC, add back. I mean, honestly, just another True Nade. At this point, we're like at a point where we can just draw into the exchange very easily. So we draw off that. We've got Oaths plus Convulsion. Let's activate the Convulsion. Flip the deck over. Oath. I mean, we're drawing at the same time, going for Oath, drawing. It's not quite the same because, now there are only 2 of these, not 3. But realistically, we pay 1,000 for the Oaths, draw 2 more. Oh my goodness, are we? Wow, okay. We activate this. I mean, we get a draw in there somewhere potentially. True Nade's on the bottom of the deck anyways, so we put these back to hand. I mean, realistically, we are winning this game 10 ways to Sunday. Let's flip the deck over. I mean, let's assume we don't draw there, but we go for Convulsion. We draw here for sure. Draw that True Nade, and then, I mean, it's just a matter of drawing into the... I mean, we got these double Oaths here. We can draw 2 off that. 1, 2. We got a third Oath, so that will do it. And now we draw into the exchange. We've used up like 2,500 more of our life points at that point with the Oaths, so we're down to 1,700, which is still enough to, or not 1,700, 2,700, so, which is still enough to use exchange. So we go exchange here and we win the game. So yeah, bit of a long one there, but that will be a W for the deck. Oh, I need to, it's weird when there's only 1 card in deck with, okay, well, let's put this in grave. Yeah, occasionally DB glitches out. Okay, there we go. Let's reset the deck now. And that should hopefully be fine. But yeah, so we've gotten 2 Ws, 4 Ls so far. I doubt we're going to get 4 Ws in a row here, but hopefully this is showing that the deck can occasionally pull off its win con. It is kind of neat to pull that off, but realistically it's pretty hard to do. This is, I mean, this doesn't do anything. Let's go for Oath. Pay 5. Call, I don't even know what we call. I don't need to call Royal Magical Library because I can just bring that back to pre-mat. So I don't need that. I think Toon Table of Contents is what I want to call here. I could also do Convulsion, but Toon Table gets us into Cannon Soldier, which gets us into double library. So I'm going to go for Toon Table of Contents here. And we hit Toon Cannon Soldier. That is perfectly fine though, because we activate Premature Burial. Pay 8. Feel great. Bring back the Toon Cannon Soldier there. Go for a Last Will. Do I activate True Nade before or after I tribute this? I need to do the math on this. Okay, so if I activate Trunade now, I do get another spell in the form of Premat. So it replaces itself if I activate the Trunade now. So I activate the Trunade now, is the way we do it. So yeah, Trunade now, two hand. I also need to go up to, let's see, I'm at 6,700. So, I used a Premat and an Oath. So I tribute this. I go for another library from deck. I'm not activating the second will yet because I want to use that now. So I activate the library or the will here, get a counter on that library, get out another library from the deck. And we've stabilized a little bit here. Not ideally, but like it's still okay. Okay, so what I have to do here, I think, I could go for the third will. I don't hate going for third will. But either way, we activate the Oath here. And that puts a second counter on this one, a third counter on this one. I could Premat now and then put Trunade back on top later. I don't hate that. Because either I'm doing Premat or Feather to get into the Trunade or the will to get the third library out. I'm fine seeing what happens. I'm fine seeing what happens. I can sort of judge at that point. So I'm gonna pay 8 again. I haven't used the Oath yet. That is important to note. Bring out this Tune Cancel to put a third counter on you, put a second counter on you. Go for the draw off library, draw into a Convulsion. That's super good. That's really, really good. I am fine to just go Convulsion now and sort of experiment with what that gets us. So let's go Convulsion now. This puts a third counter on you and one counter on you. Flips over the deck as well. Oh, wow. Okay. So we're just that good. So we draw into the Trunade there. I'm going to, I don't want to Feather right now. So, I want to do the Trunade right now. Putting this on top, not on top, in hand, to hand. Did I use the Oath? I don't think I used the Oath. I messed up there. I should have used Oath there. But either way, I think we're winning because what I do now. Oh, no, I did mess up. Okay, well, it doesn't super matter here. I'm going to activate Convulsion. So this flips out like that. I draw into Convulsion. I can just pitch Convulsion there. Or I can... Okay, here's what I do. Activate this as well. Put a third counter on that. First counter on that. Pay 5, call incorrect on the Archfiend Oath. So I mill this to grave, get it in grave for the Premat, and I also get a draw here. So I'm going to draw real quick, like that. Now I can go Premat. One of these should be above. This should be at 0, I think. And then this one should be, 2 and 1. And now I pay 8 to bring back the Demock here. I mean, this is just so good. I get Trunade or Will to hand, honestly. I'm just going to pick up a Trunade. I'm going to pick up Trunade. Then stack Will, I think. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go for Phoenix here. I'm going to pitch the Convulsion. Put a third counter on this one. Second counter on this one. I'm going to put the Will on top of the deck. And then I'm going to draw that with this library here. Then I'm going to activate the Will. Puts a third counter on this one. Puts a first counter on this one. And now this will bring out another library here. So I'm going to bring out this one in defense. I'm going to move this under the Demock just so you know where it is. I get to draw a card here. Unfortunately, this last will isn't really going to be the most helpful thing in the world. Neither will that Monster Gate, unfortunately. But, those are good cards to pitch off card D at least. So I still feel fine here. Yeah, I think I do Trunade at this point. It's kind of awkward. I don't get full value off the Trunade, but I knew that. I knew what I was getting into potentially there. Yeah, I just do, I think, Trunade. Yeah, so this will be 1, 2, 3 like that. Two hand. Deck flips over. I could just activate... I think I want to flip the deck over, so I'm going to do Convulsion here. Because, you know, that's our main way to dig deeper into the deck is through Convulsion plus Oath. So I'm fine doing the Convulsion there. Put 3 on that one. Put 2 on these. Draw a card off this one. And now I can activate another card here. I mean, Upstart's really good. I'm going to activate an Oath here. So that puts a 3rd counter on this one, 3rd counter on this one. So we get to draw 1, draw, 2, draw. Oh, and Tune Table Contents is great as well. Okay. This should be at 1 counter because this one, sometimes it's tough in like, you know, using counters on DB to keep track of everything because it can be a little bit finicky. But this should be the right counter thing, I think. We haven't used up the Oath yet. We're going to activate an Upstart though first. Draw that Tune Table of Contents, put a second one on that, put 1 on each of these, not 2. You are at 1, not 2. See, that's what I meant by it being a bit finicky. But Tune Table of Contents, I mean, that's really good for us. We can go Tune Table of Contents here, put a 3rd counter on this, 2 on these. This should be at 2, not 1. Now we get another Tune Table to hand. And now we get to draw with this one. Going into Feather, which is really good. We can get back True Nades later. I want that True Nade now, so I'm just going to activate Last Will here. Nothing to bring out off it, but this does let us draw off the libraries. So 1, 2, 3, draw that. Then 1, 2, 3, draw this. I mean, this game is very over here. We haven't even used Card Destruction, but there's Soul Release if we do want to go for that. I mean, I don't think we'll need to, but we're feeling pretty good here. So, Tune Table Contents yet again. 1, 2, 1. Let's search for that Tune Table Contents here. This goes to hand. And we can activate that Tune Table Contents there. 2, 3, 2. Search out the Toon World. I'm shocked we managed to bring this one back from the brink. Like, if you remember, we started out with like an Archfiend Oath and a Dream, and we were able to bring it back. So, very cool stuff there, but that can occasionally happen. So it's good to keep in mind. That's not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, we're just spoiled for choices here. Level limit, why not? Draw 2 cards here off these. Put a counter on this one as well. 1, 2. We're just trying to draw into the exchange of the Spirit right now. We could potentially, I don't necessarily need to pay more. We could. I'm going to choose not to pay any more from this point on because we don't really need it. I'm going to activate a Convulsion. 1, 1, 1. Should have a counter on it. There we go. I'm going to do a True Nade here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's puts a counter on this one, a counter on this one, a counter on this one. Flip over the deck. 1, 2, 3. Draw. I mean, what I could do as well is I could just go into the I could just go Convulsion here. Flip over the deck. Draw into like the Soul Exchange, and then I've got Card D to guarantee draw me into this, I think. So yeah, I think that also works. That's fine. I'm just going to activate the Oath as well. Puts a counter on this one, a counter on this one. I get to draw off that, draw into a Soul Release there. Set the Soul Release. I could draw off this one, but I don't want to yet because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards in hand. So I need to set one in addition to what I'm doing here with the Card D. So I'm going to set the Feather, and then I'm going to activate Card D. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I draw the entirety of my deck. So wherever the exchange is, I will do. Oh, it was actually relatively close to the top, but I get to draw that there. I have Soul Release for that graveyard there. And I've also got Feather the Phoenix to make sure I have a card in deck. I don't think you need a card in deck to activate exchange, but I can just do that anyways. So I don't know. I'll put this on top of the deck. And now I can set the exchange. I can set a couple cards here. Yeah, it doesn't really matter here because I just activate exchange and win the game. So this is a bit awkward because, again, okay, there we go. Now we're able to flip it back down. So yeah, so that's a W for us there. Insane W. Insane win there. That was wild. And the annoying thing as well about doing these test hands in DB is that like it notifies whenever a counter is added. So be tough to tally up our number of attempts, but that's 1 win, 2 wins, and then 3 wins. And I think before that, we just had entirely lost. Yeah. So 3 wins, 4 losses. So we're at 7 so far. So we're approaching parity there. We're approaching an even number there. So we draw into another tune table. Unfortunately, not the best, but we do have a way into a bit of stuff here. So we're going to go for the tune canceler, go for Monster Gate here. 1, 2. Okay, we hit a library right away. That is not terrible. We're going to go for 1 tune table of contents, searching out another tune table of contents. 2 hand. Put a counter on this one. We're going to search out the Tune World with this one. Grabbing that to hand. Putting another counter on that one. And now we're going to activate Level Limit Area B, because it doesn't cost us life points. We get to draw now with our library, drawing into a Feather of the Phoenix. Okay, that isn't bad, because it turns our tune table into something that can actually search again if we want it. So that could be something we do. Let me think here. Do I want to just go Feather, pitch Tune World, search it out with Tune Table, and do stuff with that? I could do that. I could also just wait until later, because I feel like Trunade gets us more value there anyways. So I'm gonna wait until later with that, I think. I'm gonna activate Tune World here. Gonna pay 1,000. Put another counter on the library there. Go for a Trunade, add these both to hand. To hand. Put a second counter on the library. Activate the level limit, putting it up to a 3rd counter, and then we get another draw. So let's draw into Royal Magic Library. That's not what I wanted to see. Okay, well, now we've got a bit more options for our Feather. I could also Feather to put Gate on top. I could have done that earlier. Potentially try and get a... Now, I don't think it's worth it at this point going for Demock yet. But either way, I think Library is perfectly fine to discard off Feather and, get going with things there. So I think what I'll do is I'll activate Feather, pitch the Library, put the Trunade on top. No, that doesn't actually solve anything, though. Huh. Yeah, I do think we have to put the Gate, unless I... Yeah, I think I have to just put the Gate on top and hope not to hand, but to top the deck. Because if we do the Trunade, it's just like sort of a roundabout way of... Yeah, it doesn't really do anything. Was that the second? That was... I think that was the first, yeah. So... Oh, but then we shuffle the deck with Tune Table, so it doesn't even do anything there. Yeah, so I think what I should have done is I should have put the Cannon Soldier on top. So actually, I'm gonna mix this around a bit. I'm gonna put Cannon Soldier on top, so then Tune Table still gets this value. Could also put another Tune Table on top as another spell to go into. I'm gonna put another Tune Table on top, I think. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think it adds more value than the Tune Cancel there. So I'm gonna pay 1,000 with that Tune World, and then I'm gonna activate the Tune Table of Contents. I've only paid 2,000 over the course of the game, so I will adjust the life points shortly. But I'll add this Tune Table of Contents to hand. That'll be the 3rd counter on the library. We get to draw here. What do we draw? We draw into Demock. That is... Oh, no. That's not what I wanted at all. Yeah, so that will be another L. There was arguments for going into just Demock right away. If we had done a Feather earlier, before we did the first draw off library, to go into Monster Gate, and then we'd Monster Gated away the library, then that's something. But it wasn't the most likely odds to hit a Demock. And actually, in fact, we would have seen that it would have hit a Royal Magic Library after that. So I don't really think that was worth doing. So that's how it goes sometimes. And that's another L. So we got 5 L's, 3 W's. What will the next game bring? We got to find out. We got Exchange in hand in the opener. That's pretty decent a lot of the time. We can go for Upstart here, draw a card, draw into Gate. I'm going to update my life points real quick. So that way they're correct. We're going to do another Upstart here, draw into another Gate. Okay, that doesn't really do anything here. I'm going to go for Feather. I could pitch the Exchange, hoping we get another Feather later. I don't hate that. But I think what my main goal... I'm going to pitch the level limit. I think my main goal here is to draw into just a monster, and then hopefully gate away the remainder of what I got. So I'm going to put this on top Actually, this doesn't do anything because I can't get back into it anyways. So, yeah, realistically, I just lose the game there. So, yeah. That's going to be 6 L's, 3 W's. Will we be able to get a 40% win rate at least with this deck? That's the question. From this hand, maybe? I don't know. It's a bit tricky. We got to see what happens. Well, okay. That changed a lot. So we're going to go for the Convulsion of Nature here. Go for the Oath. Pay 5. Draw the Mallet here. I could Mallet back a lot of the hand. I could also just True... I don't really need anything here except for the Trunade. So I'm just going to 1, 2, 3. Put the reload to everything back. Shuffle twice. 1, 2. And then 1, 2, 3. So that actually worked out perfectly. Not the Convulsion. I wanted the Reload Engrave. So that worked perfectly. That Demock's kind of awkward, not gonna lie, but yeah, we can work around with that. We can play around with that a bit more. Anyways, we're gonna bring out this library, and I don't think we want a card D now. I don't think we want a Feather now. I think what we want to do is we just want a Trunade here. I did pay 5, yeah. So okay, we're going to add these back to hand here. Put that like that. Flip the deck over. I think what yeah, the Demock makes things so much trickier. I think what I do want to do, though, is flip over the deck. We've got card destruction to at least, pitch it. So it's not the worst thing in the world. We got this Archfiend's Oath here. And then we're going to draw off that. We could also use the Oath to send the Demock to grave, but there's really no reason to do that right now. Soul Release is really good because then we can use card destruction here without really worrying about the Soul Release, or worrying about our opponent's graveyard, that is. But I think what I want to do here, I kind of want to just get Trunade back to go into other things. Kind of want to do that. I could also just card destruction, pitch 2, draw Soul Release plus 1 more. Soul Release, that's a second card. I haven't used this Oath yet, too. So actually, let's just Oath. No, because if I go for, I'm gonna Feather. Oh yeah, I'm gonna Feather. Put a counter on this. Put the Trunade back on top of the deck. Then I'm gonna Oath for that. Draw into this. Then I'm going to set the Trunade, go for card D, pitch the Demock, draw a card off that. Okay, this is good. We can Soul Release our opponent's graveyard there. That's the third counter on the library. And now we use the library to draw into that Convulsion here. Library is not what I want to see there. We're going to go for, this should be at 1 counter now. And now I Trunade back everything. So I draw everything here. So that'll be 2 counters on the library after the Trunade. Flip the deck over. Now, I could potentially just try and draw off the top of the deck here. But since I will have to be digging through the bottom of our deck eventually, I think I'm fine just going for Convulsion. Drawing into that dead library and then just hoping the other card here. Oh, well, that's perfect. Yeah. So, yeah, now I can go Oath. So that puts a counter on library. Pay 5. And get that Toon Table Contents to hand. Last Will, we've not had a way to get things engraved, so it's not the best thing in the world. I don't really care about drawing that to hand right now. Because basically at any point through our Toon Table of Contents searching, if we see a card pop up that's good, we can potentially manipulate the counters on library to get that to hand right away. But I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go for Toon Table Contents. This will put the third counter on library. This will also search out another Toon Table Contents to our hand here. So we draw into a Mallet. Mallet is not bad at all. We can reset our library. We can reset our Convulsion, so that's pretty decent. We're going to go for another Toon Table. We're going to search out another Toon Table. And that did put the second counter on the library, I believe. I think that was where that was. We're going to go for this Toon Table, put a third counter on library. Search out either Toon Cannon Soldier or Toon World. I think at this point we want the Toon World. Yeah, I think we want Toon World. We got Mallet, so we can just send it back to deck if we want to, but I think Toon World is better here. So I'm just going to go for Toon World there. That will be the third counter on library. We can draw off this into a Soul Release, which doesn't really do much here. I think at this point, we kind of want to send everything back with the Mallet. So that's what I'll do. I'm going to put 2 on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, there is a risk that we draw all monsters or like some sort of combination of that. But realistically, there's not much chance of that happening. And we drew pre-mat, which is really good here, especially when we've got that demock there. Now, we have used the oath, unfortunately. Otherwise, we could do a cool play here where we send the canceled with the oath, then we pre-mat back into the demock, get back True Nade, pre-mat back into the Can Soldier, and then we use Last Will, get out 2 more libraries from deck. But I mean, I think I'm fine just going for pre-mat here on the demock, getting back True Nade. That just seems like a really good play to me. We can also get back Feather. Okay, there is a line where we get back Feather, pitch the cannon, and do that. Oh, okay. I'm starting to like that better. I'm starting to like that one a bit better. So yeah, let's do that. So let's go Feather here. Does put the 3rd counter on library. We get to draw into the Cannon Soldier there. And exchange is also really good. Anyways, we're going to go for Feather here. That puts 1 counter on library. Pitch the Toon Cannon Soldier. Add back the True Nade to top of deck there. And now we activate Last Will. Last Will, that puts a 2nd and 3rd counter on library. So this will enable us to draw into the True Nade there. Now we can go True Nade, spin all these back. 1, 2, 3. Puts 1 counter on library. Also flips over the deck. Now I kind of want that exchange in hand right away. So I could, okay. So if I do exchange, yeah, this will work. We will be able to do this. So what I do here, this is a bit weird. It's not necessarily what I was planning on doing it originally, but I do think it's right. So we do the convulsion here. We activate the pre-mat. Say 3rd counter on library. Brings back the Toon Cannon Soldier. And then before going for the Last Wills, we draw into the exchange here. Like that. And then we use Cannon Soldier, tribute this library, and tribute itself. And that's 15 exactly. So that will be the end of the game. We don't even need to bring out the other libraries, although we've got the oath, we've got the level limit, we've got another oath on top. So we are very much winning this game no matter what, but that just gets us there directly. So that will be the last W. Ending this video on a W. 4 Ws, 6 Ls. I think this definitely shows how bad the deck can be when it bricks, but when you do manage to pull off the FTK, it is kind of cool to see it go into action. We didn't really see too much Monster Gate action, which is kind of one of the cooler things about this deck. If you Monster Gate a bunch and then get into Demock, then you get back Feather, and then you've got Exchange set up basically right away, which is kind of neat. But I do think it does show how the deck can be fun and also really not fun, depending on what your hand is. And a deck like this, because it is by nature inconsistent, never really going to be top tier of the meta. But it is kind of neat to experiment with, play around with, try and optimize as much as you can to get that FTK win rate up. Now, if we were trying to optimize further, maybe level limits could have been replaced with something else, because, this is mainly here also as a backup plan in case, you don't do the FTK, at least you've got a stall tool online. But, maybe swapping those out for double reload could be better. Who knows? I look forward to seeing what people come up with in the future for this deck if they do try and experiment with it further. But that's going to finish up my coverage of Reaper format. Again, I will be having a Reaper format tier list coming out probably either Monday or the day after Monday, because the tournament's wrapping up on Monday. So if you want to be there and know when I'm streaming the finals of that event, and also when I release the tier list, definitely subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 1,500 subscribers by the end of the month, and right now we're at about 1,470. So if you subscribe, you can help us along with that goal. But if you want to support me directly as well, I've got a Patreon linked in the description down below. And if you join the Patreon, you'll be shouted out in these videos. So big shout outs to Tyler Compton, GMYFS, Rinthwin, Porkchopkin, Brendonker, and Dumptruck. It means a lot that you all support me this way and encourage me to make more videos like this in the future. Well, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.